Good morning, everyone. My name's Tommy Johnson. I'm with the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to today's Growth Basics for Business, a monthly breakfast seminar series which provides a forum to gain useful do-it-yourself workplace solutions and insightful, actionable tips. I want to thank Eaton Peabody Partners for their continued support of this virtual event series for the entire season. I hope those of you that might have lost power last night are doing all right and are being safe while we work to get power restored throughout the state. And if you're not able to watch this and you're watching this on recording, hopefully your power has been turned back on and everything's back to normal. I'd like to welcome everybody to this fourth installment of Growth Basics for the calendar 23-24 year. This is a 10-part season-long series that runs from September through June. Today's topic, How AI Can Improve Your Business, is presented by Dan Reed from SCORE. As artificial intelligence becomes more popular and pervasive in our lives, organizations will need to learn and adapt to all the benefits, challenges, and effects it will have on our business and our employees. Now, like all Chamber Virtual Signature Series, today's event is free and will be recorded and made available for free replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page. To keep up to date on all of the Chamber's news and events, please visit our website, portlandregion.com, check out our events page, and sign up for our weekly email newsletter while you're there. Before we get started on today's presentation, I'm proud to share that we're continuing to use StreamYard for all of our virtual Chamber events. This platform allows us to broadcast over StreamYard while our participants are able to watch the presentation over on YouTube. Now, this platform provides many improved production and interaction elements that I think you'll be happy to see. I also like to remind you that if you do have questions for our presenter, please type them in the YouTube chat box, and they're going to be conveyed to our presenter at the conclusion of the presentation. We're going to save about 10 or 15 minutes after the presentation to answer those questions you might have. Now, at this point, I'd like to acknowledge our presenting sponsor for Growth Basics for Business, Eaton Peabody. For the past 6+ years, Eaton Peabody has been the presenting sponsor of this series, and they continue their support this season. Now, I'd like to invite Marketing Manager and new dad, Nate Levesque, to say a few words.
Thank you, Tommy. And thank you for the plug there. So I want to thank the Portland Chamber for doing such a great job of putting these together and providing new and engaging content month after month. Also want to thank our presenter, Dan Reed from SCORE Maine, for joining us today. This is a topic that I know is very top of mind for a lot of people and something I've been looking forward to seeing for a long time. Lastly, whether this is your first Growth Basics event or your 10th, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. For those of you that may not be familiar with our firm, we are a full-service Maine-based law firm with nearly 50 attorneys serving Maine clients from offices in Augusta, Bangor, Ellsworth, and Portland. We assist companies of all sizes in a variety of industries, so whether you're an established financial institution or a small business just taking your first steps, we can help with all of your legal needs. To learn more about the services that we provide and the industries that we serve, please visit our website, eatonpeabody.com. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn to stay up to date with legal updates and future presentations. Thank you, and back to you, Tommy.
Thanks again, Nate, and congratulations on that baby boy. Now, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Dan Reed. He's a marketing and program manager with SCORE. Dan has a background in marketing, media, and video production for small businesses. SCORE delivers around 100 small business workshops in Maine every year. Dan is also a board member for the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce's Young Professionals organization called Propel, for which he is the marketing chair as well. With that said, Dan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I want to say thank you to the Chamber for hosting SCORE today as I can present this workshop, How AI Can Improve Your Business. And just to jump into the topic and at a really basic level, what we're hoping to do today and what I'm hoping to cover is the basics in the beginning. And as we get along, we're going to get into like some more advanced specific tools and some things that maybe bigger businesses could take advantage of that a just starting out small business might not be able to. And that way we can kind of cover the full range of AI and what's available for folks who might want to get into using some of these tools. And when you're using any kind of AI, especially the generative AIs, and we'll talk a little bit more about the different kinds of generative AIs in a second, the biggest takeaways is context is super important. The AI only has the basic information that you provide with your prompt. And on top of that, iteration, so doing a prompt more than once, refining your prompt, changing some words around, changing some words around, seeing exactly how that prompt will, just changing a word here or there, or a focus here or there, or maybe an adjective might change the way that the AI sees your prompt and provide different information. And AI has great tools for text and image generation. So we talked about generative AI. We're really talking about text and image, even though AI has a lot of other applications that we'll talk about as well. AI is very good at pattern recognition. So if you have a lot of data that you need to sift through, AI is great for that. Our AI is also really good for different kinds of search features where you're trying to search for like things or things that are similar. And like one good example off the really quickly is if you do a Google search is powered by AI, and they search for things that are similar to the search results that you're getting, so it's not always the exact words that you see. AI does not know the difference between fact and fiction. The information that AI provides is not always right, and it has no way of really determining that, and that's a really big pain point with generative AI at the moment. Another thing to keep in mind is as we go through this presentation is AI is very tech and office focused. So if you have a small business like a restaurant, there are going to be some tools that will be helpful for you, but they might be focused in that office realm. Or if you're a farm, for example, there might be some farm specific AIs, but they might be beyond the scope of a small farm. So a lot of the easily accessible tools will really be helpful in like the tech and office space with a few exceptions. And how can we see all of this in one prompt? I have it here in the image. This is a ChatGPT prompt that I made for this seminar. And we'll kind of go through it from the beginning. I asked, what's SCORE? So what is SCORE? And ChatGPT didn't really have a good idea of what SCORE was. So to add a little bit of that context, SCORE is always seen with capital letters. So I capitalized SCORE. And you can see in the response, even though it wasn't 100% sure what I was talking about, SCORE came up in that first one. And to get back to fact versus fiction, SCORE is not an acronym. It's just a capitalized word, SCORE. Service Corps of Retired Executives is not correct. But ChatGPT doesn't know that. So you have to be sure to check all of your answers that you get from ChatGPT for validity. Another big thing to keep in mind is the terms and conditions of the software that you might want to use. Not all terms and conditions are created equally with this software, and you have to be very, very careful if you're going to use any of this in a commercial sense. You want to make sure you're reviewing privacy policies and data usage policies. For example, if you put something that's confidential into an AI chatbot, it might be able to rehash and reuse that information in someone else's responses, which might break some confidentiality for your business. That might not be information that you want other people having access to, even if it's chopped up and spit out in an AI response. If you need to use confidential information, try to anonymize it as much as possible. Under no circumstances do you want to provide any confidential information to an AI process that you don't have a very clear understanding that you're the only one using that trained AI system. Check terms for data ownership rights and usage restrictions. When you're using generative AI, we'll use ChatGPT as an example. Everything that you create with ChatGPT belongs to you, but that's not always true with every AI tool. I tried to check the usage restrictions and the terms for the tools that I'm going to be recommending later in the program. But you always want to double check every single time that you use an AI tool or a new AI tool that it fits within usage restrictions that you're comfortable with. With that, you want to make sure that you choose reputable vendors. You want to make sure that whoever it is that it might sound like a perfect silver bullet solution for a particular AI in your circumstance, but if that's a very clunky AI, doesn't work very good, these are things that you can find out in reviews. A lot of people are talking about AI solutions right now, which means people are also talking about the bad things that they're experiencing. And you want to make sure that you heavily research anything that you're going to start paying money for. And many AI models are currently trained on existing work and do not provide credit or sourcing. That's not always the case. Grammarly just came out with a generative AI that provides sourcing. So if you use it to create a generative piece of written content, then it will provide sources for where it pulled that from. But that is relatively new in the AI field, and that could potentially have long-term effects later down the road. So it's just something you want to keep in mind. And so this is the one we all keep hearing about: text generation, ChatGPT, also called natural language processing. And what that really means is that these tools understand written languages. They don't understand just like the letters on the keyboard or how those letters come into words. They understand how words string together in the same way that a person can. And this is relatively new software. Previously, we didn't have like an understanding outside of basic pattern recognition for machine learning. And that's really what AI is machine learning plus. And a lot of this, the text generation tools are trained on lots of text data. It's usually trained on an open version of the internet. This does include tools like ChatGPT, Google Bard, Grammarly, as I mentioned earlier, or ClickUp AI. And a major use case for these is significantly speeding up any admin work that you might have. And what I mean by that in a really basic sense is, let's say that you have a lot of emails to respond to, and you're not exactly sure how to word the email, but you just need to get a response out. You can use something like ChatGPT or Google Bard to write an email response. Or maybe it's a really long document or email that you need to read, and you can use them to summarize the key points and action items that you need to take. So it's a really great way to kind of just accelerate the work that you're already doing. And on this page, when we send out the slide deck, you'll also see here there's a little prompt guide, and it just gives some insight into the different kinds of parameters and prompt engineering that you can do with ChatGPT. One example that you can see at the top is the temperature setting. Temperature for generative AI is essentially how creative you want it to get. So you can give it creativity control or license for creativity. And that's like one of the ways that you can change your prompts just to make them a little better. So for text generation uses, so we'll get a little bit farther into the weeds here. Really great for writing a blog post. Gives a really great starting point. You can write outlines for blogs this way very easily. I will mention again that you want to make sure you're giving it enough information so that it's not accidentally plagiarizing from somewhere else. Another great usage is brainstorming. AI can act as a very good, quick sounding board that can provide long, thoughtful responses. And you can talk to it in a very conversational way. So in our image here, we have a SWOT analysis for a small marketing company in Maine. And it talks a little bit about how Maine is a small state economically, and how that could be hard on a marketing company if there's a downturn. And you could say, well, wait a second, ChatGPT, Maine historically has never, while we might have downturns, let's say we don't see that kind of economic change in this field. And it'll go, oh, okay, well, with that consideration, then I'll rewrite that SWOT analysis. So you can talk to it in a very conversational way, and it's very quick. Another thing, as I mentioned before, you can use it to summarize a document. There are some large language models that allow you to upload a PDF, and you can chat with your PDF by just asking it questions or querying your PDF. It can write long email responses. It can create a task list from an email. Or in this example here, it can create a SWOT analysis, a marketing plan, a customer analysis, or an ideal customer profile. There are a lot of different ways where ChatGPT can really kind of just help take the ideas that you're currently having and really flesh them out so that you can think on them and try to figure out if that's really a good idea. Is this the direction I want to go in? And as always, don't forget to check for data errors. And that gets us into image generation. And really quick, if anyone has any questions so far, especially about ChatGPT, we kind of went through that a little quickly. Feel free to put them in the chat, and we will get to them by the end of the presentation. But with image generation, one of the biggest things to remember is quality over quantity. Many image generation AIs will have a certain number of credits, so you can only generate so many images. So you'll want to make sure that the quality of your prompt is very high. You'll want to provide relevant and specific details for things that you want to see, and try to eliminate any vagueness. Experiment with perspective, angle, focal points, kind of change up how exactly you want to see what you want to see. And if your AI tool will allow you to attach a reference image if you have something that looks similar to what you'd like. And experiment with variation and iteration. I did mention that you want to go with quality over quantity, but sometimes iteration is how you get to that quality. Maybe that image is just missing something that you really wanted to see. In this instance, on the right, instead of drinking a coffee, maybe you really want them to drink a soda. Experiment with this includes tools such as DALL-E, which is the same tool provided by OpenAI, which does ChatGPT. There's Midjourney, and Getty Images recently came out with a tool called Getty Generative AI, and this is a generative image tool that has commercial use to it. So that's one where you'll never have to worry about any commercial usage problems. And with this image on the right, it was from a AI tool called Runway, and I had the prompt, "A person comfortably enjoying the beach." And this is to reflect on the image that we have on our next page, to show that image generating AI isn't always perfect. And this is the same, very similar prompt from Runway AI, "A person in a wheelchair enjoying the beach." Note, the AI could not figure out what a beach wheelchair is, which is an accessible piece of equipment for folks who use wheelchairs to go on the beach. And that's just a limitation that some AI models have. It didn't have the context to know what that was, and I couldn't provide a reference image for it to use. So the best it could do is use a regular wheelchair. And so some of the image uses that we have for generative image AI is social media. It's an obvious big one. Another one is images for blog posts. So you can use AI to flesh out your blog and make it longer, and then create images to go with it. You can use image generative AI to clean up a headshot by removing the background, put a new one in there, and maybe reduce some overall blemishes. You can use product visualization. So if you are planning a new product, you can try to get an idea of what that product might look like. You can generate a flyer or promotional materials, or create an infographic. And as mentioned before, you'll want to make sure that your image is commercially safe to use. So now we're getting into more of the specialized tools. So these are things that are going to go beyond just the basics of generating some text or generating an image. And we're going to get into AI tools for specific use cases. Many tools have overlapping features. So while I may cover a specific feature with a tool, it's possible that in the other groupings of tools, they all do something very similar. So you'll want to look into the strong points on each tool and see which one's right for you. A set of tools can become expensive quickly. They call this a tech stack or an AI stack. Your AI tools can very quickly turn into hundreds of dollars a month and spend just to get something that works together. So you'll want to be very careful and considerate in picking tools, and make sure that this is a solution that you actually need. Some of these tools can get very expensive, and if it's not worth paying $500 a month for that, and it's easier just to do it manually, then maybe the tool's just not at that place yet for your business. The way the tools are organized on the list is simpler tools are going to be at the top, and more complex tools will be at the bottom of each list. And tools that I personally use are marked in green. So I'm a marketing guy. So marketing is the first specialized use case that we have here. One of the biggest AI tools at the moment outside of ChatGPT is Canva. Canva has a very good generative AI platform that also has styles built into it where it has templates for social media posts, and it will automatically brand those templates with your brand colors, and then you can insert image generation into that. So this image here, it was created through Canva using Canva's Magic Media image generation. And the prompt that I used is a mentor giving advice to a small business owner in a bistro. And I would say for something that took me maybe 30 seconds, I think it's pretty good as long as you don't count the fingers on each hand. Square is Square, the website creator. Square also has, the credit card processor Square also has a website function that has content suggestions and a built-in photo environment. So Square is has a lot of folks who do restaurants, or a lot of folks who do e-commerce. And you can take pictures of your products or your dishes and right in your website, remove the background or put a new background in there and make them look a little more professional. Another tool that I personally use is Constant Contact. Constant Contact, especially if you're developing a new newsletter or you're just getting started, has really good generative AI tools. So you can create an email blast or a newsletter from scratch. If you already have something that's already branded to you, then this feature won't be as helpful as someone who's starting out fresh. Marketing Blocks is another tool that might be very helpful, especially for those folks who are in marketing. It develops marketing assets for multiple aspect ratios and sizes. So for those folks who know that there's a difference between posting an image on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and they all have to be a different aspect ratio, this tool will automatically do that for you when you design in the tool. And we have FeedHive, which is a content recycling AI. So it'll take content that performed well in the past, and it will use generative AI to change the text and then use the same image and then make those as suggestions that you can then automatically schedule on a social media calendar. So marketing is one of those areas where there are a lot of tools that can be very helpful, but they're also very specialized and they can get expensive quickly. So if you do think that marketing is an area that an AI tool could be helpful for you, you'll want to be very considerate in the choice that you're making and make sure that it makes sense for you. And to go on to our next one, content development, which is right next to marketing. This is another area where there's just been a lot of advancement for AI tools. Photoshop is one that I personally use all the time. Photoshop has a generative fill feature that allows you to remove, extend, or replace objects in a scene. And I actually used this on a photo of a cruise ship that I took last year. And then you can tell in the top image there are cars, but I had them removed in the bottom image. And while the pier doesn't exactly look how it would normally look, it looks pretty close. And I think the image by itself, it'd be hard to tell that there's a difference. Runway is the tool that I generated the beach images with earlier in the program. But not only can it do imagery, it can also do audio and video as well. And it can do that from text, or you can upload audio, video, or an image as an existing media to create something new. It's a very interesting platform for media generation. We have Steve AI, which is a text or voice input, and it creates animations or stock videos from that. Very helpful if you're looking to put together a good bit of just basic social media content. Synthesia is an AI tool that's been out for quite some time now that creates what we call talking head style videos or avatars that will lip sync text scripts. And you can also make a custom avatar of yourself using your image and your voice, where you can upload scripts and it will automatically create an image and video that sounds like you, and even sometimes use gestures like this. Lumen 5 transforms text content into videos. So this is, let's say you have a long blog or a blog that's performed really well. And you can take that blog and create videos using stock imagery with a drag and drop interface as the blog, as the base content. And don't forget, folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them down in the comments, and we will get to them here in a few minutes. Still kind of in that marketing sphere, we have copywriting. Grammarly is the one that I use the most. ChatGPT as well, but I would say Grammarly the most. And it analyzes and generates written content for grammar, tone, and style. And it also has a generative AI in it as well. As you can see here with the image, the prompt was generate a short description of SCORE Maine. And it was able to pull something up that was very accurate. And it didn't have the same problem with the acronym that we had with ChatGPT earlier. There's Copy AI, which is specifically focused on making marketing copy for blogs. There's also Jasper AI, and a friend of mine who does SEO really recommends this tool. It generates human-like text, so it kind of reads like a human wrote it rather than reading like an AI, supposedly. But the big feature here is that it has a great system on integrating SEO keywords using AI. So you'll put in the keywords that you want to hit, and it'll analyze your writing and say, this is a really good place to replace some text for a keyword. And you'll want to make sure that you're providing enough original content to avoid plagiarism with SEO and copywriting at the moment, especially if you're going to be using it for commercial use. So this is one of the bigger ones. So bookkeeping and accounting. There's a lot going on in the world of finance with AI. Most of it is at a very high level, but there's also stuff at a low level. You may have used a tool before where you scan a receipt using your phone camera, such as Auto Entry or Expensify. And those are AI tools. They take the information that they can read off of the receipt, and they translate it into your book software. And speaking of book software, Xero and QuickBooks, which are some of the biggest softwares for small businesses, are starting to integrate cash flow projections, large language models, and things of that nature. So pretty soon, I think this upcoming spring, QuickBooks should have a cash flow AI feature that will do a cash flow projection for your business, and then you can ask it questions about your cash flow and your financial forecast. And Xero, I believe, already has a piece of software like this. And if you need something a little more than that, something a little more complex, Clockwork AI or Fathom AI are plugins with cash flow forecasting. And this image that we have here on the right is from Clockwork. And you can do specific scenario forecasting and financial modeling. And it's very similar in that it has AI-driven cash flow and modeling software integrated in it. And it can make suggestions on which clients that you might want to reach out to based on ordering habits. There are also some tools out there that claim to help fill and file your taxes. I didn't want to make a suggestion for that because that just seems like something where you definitely don't want to mess up and have AI make a mistake. But that's something that we might want to be aware of. Is that something in the future that we're going to be looking at? And obviously, AI is not a replacement for sound financial advice. I think that's pretty obvious. Another place that AI can really help is sales. Grab AI can integrate with your accounting software, and this can also provide insights into customer purchasing habits, how long it's been since someone's purchased something, maybe that they purchase a specific product at a certain time every year, and you might want to reach out to them in advance. Einstein is a new piece of software coming from Salesforce. And as you may have noticed, I mentioned quite a few large software companies are making integrated AI. You want to make sure you keep an eye out for that. Einstein is a large language model that lets you query your CRM about prospects, so that it basically lets you ask Salesforce questions about the people that you have in your customer relationship management software. So that can be really useful, such as, hey, I saw John from Revision last week. What's his email? And it can produce that. When was the last time that they purchased something from us? What are the big 3 products? Those can be very, very helpful pieces of information before doing outreach. There's also Exceed by Genesis, which is a chatbot and email assistant that will essentially automatically respond to messages in your email inbox requesting a meeting, and then we'll schedule that meeting with that person. So you can fill out your meeting schedules if you make sales through meetings without having to send an email to anyone, as long as you have prospects coming in. And that lets you really focus in and narrow in on prospecting, and it lets your appointment setting just happen on auto. It's a very interesting tool. And one of the ones that I would say is probably one of the most interesting tools on this list is if you are a larger business, or maybe you have several employees, is KnowledgeNet.ai. It tracks connections across your business through email and social media networks. And this includes your employees who sign up for it and have their email and social media networks included. And it effectively lets you know if you're looking for someone, let's say John at Revision, and you have a friend that you've emailed, or that you have a colleague that you've emailed who has John on LinkedIn. KnowledgeNet will let you know that that colleague has John on LinkedIn, and maybe John can make, or that colleague can make an introduction to John for you. It's a really interesting way to figure out who knows who, driven through AI, and to then make those connections. And that brings us to our last set of tools that I have today. And again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. These are organization tools. So these are tools that can really help kind of take your organization to the next level, make things a lot easier. Zoom AI Summary, again, if you do a lot of those meetings, this is a built-in tool for Zoom that will provide a written summary. So it's almost like having a secretary in your meeting just to take notes. It's incredibly helpful. I use it maybe half the time that I have a Zoom meeting, even though I do take notes as well. It's a really great way to compare with my notes and see if I missed anything. And if you want something that's even more comprehensive than that, there's Firefly's AI, which is a meeting summary bot. It actually joins your meeting as a robot through a phone number, and it automatically records the meeting, creates a summary of notes, very similar to Zoom AI Summary, but it also has a CRM integration that will then put those notes into Salesforce or your CRM. So it's a very interesting way to kind of speed up some of the steps of having a meeting, taking notes, and then making an action plan. One of my personal favorites is Reflect, which is a note-taking app that has a ChatGPT integration. This image on the right is from my Reflect board. It was a meeting that I had for some nonprofit volunteer work over the weekend. And each of the blue links, these are all links in Reflect. So each of these links link to every other instance that that person has ever come up in my notes. So if I were to, in my board here, if I were to click on the person I met with, Dave, I can then see all the previous meetings that I've had with Dave, or all the previous action items that I've had that involve Dave. And I can use a search function in Reflect to look that up as well. It's an incredibly powerful organization tool, one that I'm a very huge fan of. And Reflect also has ChatGPT built in that I can create generative text or summarize text as well in my notes. And Rationale is a specific organization tool for creating for decision making. So you can create a SWOT analysis. It can create pros and cons list or an outcome analysis, very specialized analyses based off of text input, and to kind of help along with the decision making process. It's a very interesting tool, especially if you're in the business planning phase. And with that, we are open to questions. So a little bit about SCORE. We offer free business mentoring and education. We're an SPA resource partner, and we were really happy to partner with the Chamber on this workshop. Thanks again, Tommy.
Dan, great presentation. And I know I've got a lot of questions because I'm sort of a rookie, and I'm a little timid when it comes to maybe using AI. So first question that we have that comes up is, I've used, it's from our Legier Design. I've occasionally used AI in the workplace for writing tools like ChatGPT. What do you predict or recommend for users as the next step to utilizing AI in the workplace? Someone like me, say.
So as long as you're not using it for commercial use, I think one of the next big steps will be integrating that AI into like email functions. There's already ChatGPT for Gmail if you have a Gmail workspace. That'll allow you to integrate it directly into writing and reading emails. I think that would be incredibly helpful. I also see it moving into kind of like that more organization and notes taking space as we see like Google Drive will probably have an AI feature soon for search and collating notes.
Got it. I think I'm going to go to a question from Joseph McEachern. I'm not sure how to say that. Sorry, Joseph. He's asking, he's got little or no experience with AI. What do you think is the most effective tool to get started? When using content development, do you simply upload a photo as the query?
I think the most effective tool is probably just ChatGPT or DALL-E, which is the image version of ChatGPT, and just using text. Some of the photo as a query software can be a little difficult. I had some run-ins with Runway or AI, where I was uploading photos and trying to get it to do a photo to photo, and it just couldn't really figure out what was going on. So you want to be like really careful with that. A lot of times they'll have a better time with the text to image generation. But I would definitely start with ChatGPT, doing basic things like that, office or admin tasks, or if you're doing marketing, trying to replace a little bit of the creative and marketing using these tools.
And we've heard a lot about ChatGPT over the last year or so, and you've mentioned it a couple times today. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but I do see another question from our Legier. Should everyone be using AI to some degree? Are there times a business should wait on some of the more advanced tools or analytics?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I don't think AI is for everyone. I don't think a construction worker is going to get any use out of any of the AI tools that are available right now. Maybe the foreman might in some AI tools, but on average, if it's not related to like an office task or a kind of like tech task, AI is probably not going to be where it needs to be helpful.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Going back to the question that I had in my mind, it was, we've heard a lot about ChatGPT, and just over the last, couple of weeks, I've heard a little bit about Bard, which I think is a similar product to ChatGPT, and it's a Google product, right?
Yes.
Anecdotally, can you give sort of your experience with the both? Would you say you've got one preference over the other, or do they work similarly? Maybe talk a little bit about that just in terms of your own experience.
I like them both. ChatGPT also has multiple models. I use the free version, ChatGPT 3.5. ChatGPT 4 is supposed to be much better. I haven't found the need to upgrade yet. That's just me. Google Bard, I think, is very good. I think it's a little better at creating, like if you're looking for a list, Google Bard is very good at creating lists from text. I would say better than ChatGPT. But in text generation, my favorite is probably Grammarly. They just came out with a text generation platform, and not only does it already have the existing Grammarly software where it can help you with tone and grammar and spelling, but it can also generate and create sources for anything that's generated, which I think is very useful.
Excellent. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned lists, and you said that Bard might be more useful. Give me an example of what type of list, because I'm immediately going to give me the top 20 ski areas in America, but that's really something that Google would spit out. But then going back to what I know about AI, Google really is using AI, so to speak. So maybe dive into that a little bit for me in terms of when you said lists, when you're using either ChatGPT versus Bard. Tell me what type of list that might look like.
Yeah, actually, that was a very interesting point you made. You can do searches through the AI platforms just like that. But as far as lists in the way that I was referencing it, for example, when I send out a marketing email for a workshop, I try to include a 3-bullet list of who should attend and what you're going to learn from that workshop. And I found that Google Bard is better at generating that list than ChatGPT when I give it a workshop description.
And that list would say, based on what the content is, we recommend that accountants and economists and restaurateurs and mechanics should show up versus other industries. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And
Got
it
it.
just
Got it.
feels like it's easier to just copy something from Bard in that format and then edit it a little bit than ChatGPT. Might require a lot more editing.
From the little bit of snooping that I did, and again, I'm a rookie when it comes to AI, certainly. I've read and found that Bard tends to give less feedback. So if you put in your request either into ChatGPT versus Bard, Bard will give you a much more succinct black and white response, whereas ChatGPT might be a little more verbose and longer version. And I think that might just be due to the fact that ChatGPT was first to the market, so it's been used more, and I think people are getting a little bit more of the sizzle out of it. And I think they'll probably there'll be a leveling point with both as time goes on.
Yeah, and I don't have, again, I hear it's different with ChatGPT 4, but when you compare Bard to ChatGPT 3.5, in that line, a really good example is ChatGPT 3.5 doesn't seem to understand length. So if you say, make it 2 paragraphs, it'll make it 2 really long paragraphs. It won't make like 2 shorter paragraphs. Where Google Bard, it's pretty good at making that estimation.
Yeah, that's kind of again, from the limited research that I did, it seems like ChatGPT wanted to give you everything that might be in the cupboard. It sort of throws up on the page, and you can pull out of it what you want, whereas Bard gives you just the facts, very black and white, less is more. Yeah. We do have one other question here. One came from Rex, the Enigma. How would you recommend AI for restaurant businesses? Great question. We have a lot of restaurant members, certainly a lot of very popular restaurants in Maine, as we're known within the industry. What would you recommend maybe in terms of AI for restaurants?
That is a great question. I actually debated a lot on having a slide just for the restaurant industry. There's some very interesting AI tools. I don't know how accessible they are, and that's part of the reason why I left it off. Just to give you some idea into what's coming up for the restaurant industry, there are going to be AI tools that will measure using cameras at your dishwashing station how much waste each product that you create has. So let's say someone like most of your clients aren't eating all of the carrots, but they're eating all the coleslaw, then you know that carrots are going to be a big waste for you, and you can figure out exactly how much and then make adjustments based on that. There's also probably going to be a lot of AI in the future revolving around like food truck locations and being able to scout where there's going to be a lot of foot traffic. So food trucks can pick an optimal spot. And there's also things around if you're looking to set up on Square, there's actually an automatic menu generation with AI. So you can take a picture of your existing menu and it will generate it into an AI or an AI menu online, so you can start taking online orders. There's a lot of really interesting stuff coming to the restaurant industry in relation to AI.
That's interesting. And again, I appreciate all the questions. So keep them coming, folks. If you've got more questions for Dan, we got another 10 minutes or so. We do have another question that just came up. It's from R. Legier yet again. You mentioned usage rules for different AI tools. Are there any you know of with particularly good rules, or even the opposite you would caution use of for any reason within their terms of use?
That is a really good question. I probably should have took better notes on the tools that I skipped for usage restrictions, but it can take time. That's actually something. That's one of the reasons why I created the slide. Is when I realized that was a problem, I looked through the tools I was looking at, and it's a big one. It seems to be kind of up in the air whether or not the tool that you're going to pick has usage restrictions that favor you or not. You just want to really make sure that if you're using generative AI, in my opinion, the best things to look for in the usage is anything that's generated is owned by you forever, and that essentially the AI tool itself has no liability for anything that you create, which means that they're never going to come after anything that you create on any level, and it's just 100% going to be your responsibility, which is probably the best case scenario.
Got it. And again, questions like the last one that came up, Dan did mention that some of the usage tools were something that he researched. But if you have further questions for Dan afterwards, I do want to remind people that there will be an email that'll be sent out after this event today, and it'll have information how to contact Dan if you want to learn more about AI, and maybe he can work with you and help you. We'd always do encourage people to reach out to you, Dan. So they'll have that ability as well. And again, I also want to mention in that email, your slides, your presentation, that deck will be available to all the people who registered for today's event also. So Great questions. Keep them coming. I'm trying to look in the question box, see if we got any more coming. Just as we have a couple more minutes, I did hear you talk about Grammarly, and it seems somewhat of a generational thing. It seems like all the folks who are millennials or Gen Zs are very comfortable using Grammarly, whereas I think people that are my generation, Gen X, maybe are a little more resistant, and that could just be technology in general. But maybe just anecdotally, have you used Grammarly yourself, and what's been your experience?
I use it every day. I find Grammarly to be particularly useful because it's not necessarily in some of these tools you have to do everything inside its platform, which can almost feel a little invasive in that you're taking your normal workflow out and then putting it into this tool and then trying to take it back out.
Right.
Grammarly has like a really seamless not only desktop application, but extensions for like browsers, so that it just kind of pops in and starts working on whatever you're already working on. And that's something that I also try to keep in mind with making tool recommendations, is trying to create something that's a little less invasive, or if you have to have it on its own platform, then there's a good reason for it.
I will say that's how, and thank you for that summary. That's how it was sold to me by one of my younger colleagues. Had said you can literally use Grammarly almost as if it's an editing tool, whether you're sending an email or you're writing a presentation in Word, say. It's basically a proofreader, and that's how I know a lot of people have used it.
Exactly.
You'll type up what you wrote, and it'll make sure that your verb tense and some of your synonyms are maybe being optimized, the best way possible. Hey, we've got one other question that came through from Rex again. Are there tools for media publishing management that you're aware of?
If you're talking about media publishing on social media, there are a ton of them. The slide that I had up for marketing, almost all of those tools do social media publishing. It's one of those for books, games, or animations.
Yeah.
Not necessarily off the top of my mind for books, games, or animations. Books in particular are a topic that AI is having a lot of scrutiny around right now with AI authors. And they're publishing books with, again, we kind of go back to that fact versus fiction thing. They might be publishing books and reference materials written by AI that aren't exactly true. So that's something you want to be very careful about.
Got it. Looks like Joseph has another question. He's asking, how can AI help create a branding identity or even a business name?
That's a great question. There are a lot of tools out there. Weirdly, there are a lot of tools out there specifically for this. But I would say one of the best ways is that sounding board. So treating it like a person, talking to it like it's a person who's just trying to talk you through the process is a really great way, just starting with ChatGPT. As far as brand identity, Canva is really great. Once you have a brand identity, you have some colors that you think really match your brand, you can plug them into Canva, and they're called brand colors, and they'll automatically update templates to have those colors. And that's a really great starting point.
Cool. A question that just came up, because by the way, I love these questions. Sometimes when we break the ice, all the questions come out like a cascade. But I've found that sometimes when I go to a website and it says, do you have any questions? And I'm looking for a car, let's say. And I say, do you have any 2023 trucks? And then, it'll say, yes, thanks for your question. And it starts as sort of a stream of conversation back and forth between me and this Q&A box. Is that an AI or a bot that's answering me for the first few questions? And then once I get really, deep into the questioning, like, does that come with a leather seat, standard transmission, 4-door in the color red? Is that when it then kicks over to a real human, or how does that work, in the real world application?
You actually hit the nail on the head. A lot of these chatbots used to be just chatbots, and like hopefully it would direct you to like a page where you can click buy. But many of the AI chatbots nowadays have like what they call sale detection features, where it will detect whether or not you're on the track to making a sale, and then as soon as it feels that you're going to buy something, it gets you to a live salesperson immediately.
Sorry.
No, so it really depends on like really which one you're interacting with, but a lot of companies are switching over to that so that it kind of helps save the time of the salespeople while also creating a better experience for the customer.
So it's a sales funnel. So you start way out here. Do you want a truck or a car? Okay, and it's not do you want red with a stick shift, but it's where are we? And it gets it down to the funnel, and once it gets to the specifics, then it hands off to a live human who can help close that sale. Interesting. Well, thank you to everybody for the great questions. We'll give it another minute here just to see if people have any questions. Please do type them in the chat. We've got Dan for another few minutes. And
I would say, as I was talking earlier, I don't recommend typically tools where it's it's its own platform and it might be a little clunky in integrating into your workflow. The one tool that I found in my research that I adopted that is its own platform is Reflect, and I would strongly recommend folks try it out if they don't have an organization software that they currently use. I found it to be incredibly handy and helpful. It allows you to import your calendar so you can take meeting notes directly, things like that. It's very nice.
Cool. Well, Dan, I don't see any other questions that are popping through, but I'm betting people have some questions. So we do encourage you, once you get that thank you email from the chamber, Dan's contact information will be on there. If you have some questions that you just didn't think of today or maybe were afraid to ask, please do ask them of Dan. He's a great resource, and I'll bet that we could talk about this topic for 3 or 4 more Growth Basics seminars in the future. But thanks again, Dan, for another great presentation. Thanks, of course, to our chamber staff for helping to produce another successful event. And thanks to each of you for attending today and throughout this year. If you're interested in learning more about the topic, again, be sure to check your email for that follow-up message with links to additional resources. Another shout out to our sponsors, Eaton Peabody, for their support of the Growth Basics for Business series throughout this entire year. We look forward to seeing you again to start the new year on January 16th, when we plan to hear a presentation from Brad Pierce of regenerative change and seed strategies on the topic of how to navigate change and develop resilient leaders for success. The Eaton Peabody Growth Basics for Business series is typically held on the third Tuesday of each month, so make sure you mark your calendars for that. And with that said, have a wonderful rest of your day, holiday season, and have a safe and happy New Year.